Hi, good evening. My name is Rick Olivares, and I'm going to be doing a new series of videos about my record collection. The first few batches that I'm going to do, they're called the music of, for example, the 1970s. So I'm going to do it by decade. By no means is this going to be the best albums of the decade. I'm going to just talk about some records that I got started on and that had a great effect on me. Again, once more, it's not meant to be the best. It's not ranked in order. I'm just going to talk about certain records that mattered to me during that decade. But if there's any record that we should start off, it's going to be this record, Destroyer by Kiss. It's like this. My father, Danny, worked for Disc Corporation. That was their record label here in the Philippines. And, um, it was one of those offshoots of Mareco. It was owned by the Villars, the Villar family. And they put up another record company called Disc Corporation with my father as the president. And through Disc Corporation, they released Casablanca Records locally. And when you say Casablanca Records, that's Kiss, Donna Summer, Terry Besario, The Village People, and so on and so forth. The bulk of it were from the disco era. The They had one primary rock act, and that was Kiss. They had another one called Angel, which was progressive rock at the time. And they never really hit it big, but I love their music. And they had Fanny, but yeah, my father did release the one album of Fanny, and I remember seeing it back then. But it was really Kiss. Now, because of my father being the president of this corporation, he would bring all these records, and he knew that I was into comic books. And I mean, really, when you look at Kiss, they look like comic book characters. So he gave me Kiss records, much to my mom's dismay, because that was my musical awakening with Kiss. And I was very, very young. I was like, what, 9 years old, something like that. And then 10 years old. And I was just reading into comic books and cartoons and toys. That was about it. And Kiss opened music for me. I mean, there was music around house. There was a radio and all that, but I just wasn't too much into it until my dad started giving me records to play. And there's this album, Destroyer. And look at that cover art, right? How can you not be taken by that cover art? It's a painting. And, you know, and the first track in this one was Detroit Rock City. And I remember the first time I ever played this record. And you hear like what is a radio news report, and then the band just launched into this hard rock song. And it was about a car accident. And, I wondered if it was even true. And I remember trying to think about it. Is this autobiographical or something, that, And it was jarring for one of the first rock songs that I heard in my life was about a death. And there's a car accident and whatever effects they were able to come out of it. You could hear cars skidding, glass breaking, and all that. That was that had a huge impression on a young boy. Okay. And they followed it up with Kings of the Nighttime World and God of Thunder, Great Expectations, Flaming Youth, Shout It Out Loud, which is one of my favorite Kiss tracks. And as if I'm going to quote Tom Morello from his induction of Kiss into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the first power ballad, rock power ballad in Death. This is such an amazing, amazing album. And when I heard this, I was just so taken in by the power of rock and roll and Kiss. Um, so my world was just Kiss back then. I knew of other rock bands because you could see them on song hits, you could hear them on the radio, but it was just Kiss for me. Uh, but gradually, because there were a lot of Kiss fans at the time, and uh, the neighbors of my cousin Buddy Kunanan, they lived in Campo Ginaldo at the time. In front of them were the San Andres brothers, Ronald and Fritz San Andres. Ronald became a famous tennis player here in the Philippines, a national player. They all like everyone else, like my cousins and the San Andres brothers went to Ateneo, but I think um, Ronald went to UP for college, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a funny story there because I had a lot of Kiss records since my dad um, had a lot of these imports. And yes, this is that import. It is this record. And and the San Andres brothers wanted a Kiss record, and they were willing to trade uh, a record to me. And I was hesitant because they were, all the records are pressed in the Philippines and mine were pressed in the United States. And to help sweeten the pot, uh, they were willing to trade Led Zeppelin III. They refused to trade Led Zeppelin IV. They wanted to trade Led Zeppelin III along with the comic book Uncanny X-Men. And they knew the way to my heart because I was a fan of the X-Men. And at the time, comic books were just so hard to come by here in the Philippines. You had to go to the stores outside Clark Air Base, or if not inside the commissary inside Clark Air Base or Subic Naval Base, if you wanted American comic books. Or you could go to Recto in Avenida, they'd have secondhand copies of American comic books there. And but the X-Men were just so difficult to find. I picked up I remember I think I was in third grade when the all new, all different X-Men, first under Len Wayne, and then later under Chris Claremont, first came out, and they sold it giant size X-Men at Mercury Drug sa May Delta, of all places. But they had a comic book rack back then. Many Mercury Drug had that. Cherry Foodorama and Unimart had racks just for comic books. You had the locally repressed ones, and there were the imports. The imports were like $5 or something like that. So anyway, to sweeten the pot, they traded. They asked for since I had access to multiple copies of Kiss records. I was able to trade away rock and roll over for Led Zeppelin. And at the time, I've not heard of Led Zeppelin. I've not, but you kind of hear about them, but I wasn't sure which was Led Zeppelin or not. Because uh, at a young age, I did not have my own radio yet. I would just, rely on my dad playing the radio from the sala. It would be a few years later before he started giving me my own tape recorder, radio. But so Led Zeppelin 3, I remember we played it inside the bedroom of the San Andres brothers and si Ronald and si Fritz. And alam nilang excited now kasi they sweetened the pot by adding an issue of the Uncanny X-Men. This is where they met the Imperial Guard, in case you want to know. The Macran Crystal, that was that particular issue. And I still have it to this day. I'm an archivist. I'm a keeper of junk. So Led Zeppelin 3. And the record player of the brothers was a one of those portable ones, like most people back then, it wasn't about this sound system that you had. As long as you could play the record and whatever it sounded, that was it, right? So they played Led Zeppelin 3, and the very first song on this album is the Immigrant Song. And like, you know how it starts, right? You know how the Immigrant Song starts out. It's just like, what is this? Is this Tarzan? Is it the Primal Scream or something? And I was so stunned because it was nothing like Kiss, nothing at all. And it scared me, it intrigued me, it fascinated me, it frightened me. Uh, the Immigrant Song is something I've so jarring. Remember, this is the 1970s, and I was a very young boy at the time. So everything made an impression on me. And music was just a whole new world for me. And listening to Led Zeppelin at the time was like, oh wow, what is this? I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not, but I was so fascinated by it that I agreed to the trade. And it was a locally pressed copy of Led Zeppelin. Now, this is the important one that I got later on. Um, I remember I took home the record, and after the immigrant song, I decided I didn't like it. I didn't like it because it was all new to me, right? But it grew on me eventually, and that I eventually had to get Led Zeppelin IV. And there it snowballed from there. But imagine that how the two records connect. Well, in essence, the bands, because the brothers wanted a copy of a Kiss record that was pressed in the United States, so they're willing to trade for Led Zeppelin III. Now, the fascinating thing about it is that the brothers were like 4 or 5 years younger than me. They were ready to Led Zeppelin. They were so ahead of me. You know, they had their own stack of records. All I could boast were records of Kiss, Angel, and even Fanny. Di ba? But sila may Led Zepp, may Deep Purple, grabe, may Thin Lizzy. And those guys are ahead of me. Di ba? So, but ang kagandahan nito, Led Zeppelin opened me up to even the Yardbirds. So by no means is this for me one of the greatest albums of the 70s. But while yes, it is. But I'm not going to say that this is one of my most favorite albums, but it certainly opened my eyes and my ears to not just Led Zepp's catalog, but so many other things. And look at that. Look at me back over. In case you want to know, the local pressing of this one, the songs are printed over here. Di ba? Pampasira, no? Ganda na nga ng likod. Sobrang ganda. Tapos may three lang. Ako, hindi na kailangan yung three. Doesn't mean anything in terms of the layout. I would have removed it. But look at that photo of Jimmy Page up there. So haunting. And then even Robert Plant. So, grabe. I remember listening to this record in my room and saying, I need to really think about it. And I played it a lot of times before I finally dug it. You know? But that I was still solid Kiss at the time. So, but again, it opened me up to other music. When I hit grade 6, and I was in 6 Aguinaldo at the Ateneo grade school, I had all these classmates also who had a huge influence in what I would listen to. The common denominator between me, Heck Garden, Michael Kwan, Reggie Ocampo, Bam Kim Son, Jory Ignacio, um, and all my other classmates then was that we all were Kiss fans because they were so popular among the young because of they look like comic book superheroes, and ang lakas talaga ng dating cross even the grade school, the different levels in the grade school and the high school at the time. A lot were Kiss fans. And, another Kiss fan at the time was uh, my batchmate Dominic Gamboa was a massive Kiss fan as well. In fact, Doming was the sergeant, the staff sergeant of the local chapter of the Kiss Army. And I didn't even know that there was a local chapter of the Kiss Army with my dad as the president. And they would hold regular meetings where they would hold listening sessions. They would unveil the new posters that were on sale and the new records, of course, no? Even merch. Ganun yung Kiss Army noon, and then Kiss paint, patches and stuff like that. And then I remember distinctly going to my first ever Kiss Army meet, and I was just so impressed. And after my dad did some talking, it was Doming who started talking to everyone, impressing people, and on the stuff that they were going to do, that we were going to do. And I was just like, wow, this is really great. Like-minded people, and we were all into Kiss. So that was great. So nakakatawa. So now we have Kiss Destroyer and then Led Zeppelin III. Now the next records that I'm going to be showing you are not in terms of like ranking. I just want to pick out some records that just really blew my mind as a young boy. And, and each one is a story. Now, I was born in 1966, so I'm already dating myself. So that was the height of Beatlemania. But I didn't know the Beatles because I was way too young. I think by the time I hit grade one, they had broken up or something like that. And I'd hear them on the radio, but I was more interested in knowing about those Marvel comics, cartoons, those Lawrence Gantry animated cartoons that they would show on Channel 13 and 9 back in the day. So, but so I, my entry into the Beatles was Paul McCartney's Wings. This particular one, Wings Greatest. Uh, you'd hear songs like Live and Let Die. Uh, I remember as a Channel 13, they would between programs or between programs, they would show music videos on things like that. And they would show the music video for Wings Live and Let Die, which is the theme song from the James Bond film of the same title. And my cousin Michael was into the Beatles at the time. Uh, so he was also an influence. He was really, really into the Beatles. But it was through him that I started to hear the Fab Four even more outside my father. But Michael really exuded the love for the Fab Four, and but for me, my introduction to the Beatles was really Wings, Live and Let Die, because it was a James Bond song. So I remember getting this record. I got this Wings Greatness, and that was a good place to start singing because these were the best songs from Wings. City love songs, just love hearing it on the radio with a little band on the run. My Love, diba? Even Mall of Kintar, diba? Although wasn't really a fan of it, but you'd hear it on the radio. But the big hits here, Silly Love Songs, Live and Let Die, with a little band on the run, diba? Let Them In. So I love this record. So in essence, because this is my entry point into the Beatles, I was a big Paul McCartney fan. It doesn't mean I was a lesser fan of the other three members, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, but yun yung naging entry point. And since like Paul and left-handed, learned to play the guitar left-handed. So, dun ako nag-backtrack. And like I said, Live and Let Die was often played on the radio. You'd see, um, one of the things that are grafted into my mind to this day is the part where James Bond, Roger Moore is on the speedboat and he's just flying across what were they, the Everglades and all that. People chasing him in the speedboat, and that's where the song picks up from "Live and Let Die." That's really ingrained in my mind, grafted into my mind, and then just you hear um, the rock and roll of that song, and that really stuck with me. The only other thing that really you'd hear a lot in terms of the Fab Four, at least from what I remember, was Yellow Submarine. And because it was an animated film, they would show it on television on Channel 5 back in the day. Yes, I remember that, Channel 5. And never mind if it wasn't a cartoon for kids, but a cartoon for adults. But I guess they figured it's animation. It wouldn't really, it was martial law at the time. So animation would keep them, the young, not thinking of other things, but just watching cartoons. So I love Wings. I was just a major, major fan. So um, eventually kasi umaasa lang naman ako sa father ko, di ba? He'd give me records. Then since a few years after while he was in this corporation, he became the second president of the Philippine Association of the Record Industry, the longest tenured one, 27 years. I think the first president was James D. of Diner Records, and they relinquished that role because my dad was very good as a manager and very enthusiastic about the music industry. And that's what his peers told me about him. I do remember a lot of him being in the industry, but the dealings in the boardroom, etc., etc. Sila nagkikwento sa akin. So I only had access to the records under this corporation. If I wanted records from other record companies, he had to request for them. And but it wouldn't be all the time that he would ask. Kasi, it's not nice to be asking. Diba? You should be. Although the record companies would give copies to fans, but not all the time. Um, so kung hingi ako sa father ko, minsan-minsan lang. I couldn't ask all the time. But certainly when my father went abroad, that's when I would ask if he could get me this. And usually the timing ko yan, pag parating na yung birthday ko, Dad, this is for my birthday gift. So, hindi na makakatanggi. So ito, hiningi na lang to sa diner. Hiningi sa diner. So, di kaya ako nagkaroon ng Wings Greatest. And I loved it. Loved it. Eventually, years later, I would get the American, British imports, and even the Japanese import. I don't have the original Wings record that I have. I really don't know what happened to it. Most likely my mom threw it out. Kasi hindi siya fan ng rock and roll. Kala niya music of the devil. Seryoso, di ba? So, she was, especially, seeing Kiss and all their makeup and Gene Simmons as the demon. Diba? All the more reinforced it. Tsaka may time na yun, uso yung backmasking, Stairway to Heaven, and all that, diba? So, there's all this talk about it. So I had to hide my record collection. But hindi naman niya tinatapon pag nandiyan ako. It's later on the first time she threw away my records was when we moved houses from Cubao to Marikina. And then later on when I was abroad, she threw even more of my records out. And I remember agreeing to it. Like, I'll throw out your records. And um, I agreed. I don't know why. Kasi syempre, you're growing up. Growing up, um, you're into comic books, you're into music, and then you discover girls. So, your interest in something has to wane because girls all of a sudden were on the horizon. Diba? So, may barkada na, then sports, you're playing football and baseball a lot. So, something had to give. And it was music, although I never stopped loving music, never did. But um, I don't know why. Don't ask me. I guess I just wasn't very smart about it, right? So more records, rumors, really. Diba? My God, 1975, 76, 77. All you could hear on the radio was Fleetwood Mac, Eagles, and all that stuff. And rumors with dreams. My God, don't stop. If you ask me today, what is it about this album? I'll tell you the memory that is attached to this is my family, my father, my mother, my sister, the brother who came after my sister. Wala pa yung bunso namin si Ron. Was driving to Bonanza Steakhouse. Dito, just several hundred meters away from Munoz. We'd go there. Bonanza was a steakhouse, and it was just really like going into this. It was a Western setting and patterned after Bonanza, which was a television series back. And we loved it because, I mean, steak. Who doesn't love steak? So I remember my dad, siya may hawak ng radyo sa kotse. Siya nag-flip ng dial. It was really annoying, to be honest with you. If a song came up that we didn't like, he'd flip the dial, go to another station, maghanap siya maganda. Diba? And it was really annoying because why not just keep it on one channel, one station? But whenever songs like, or bands like Fleetwood Mac came up, we would listen to it. So um, I remember that memory that is attached to Bananas is hearing Don't Stop. Especially, I think it's a powerful song with Lindsay Buckingham on lead vocals for that. And especially towards the end, when he sings, "Oh, don't you look back." And it was just, so I remember we were going there after Mass. We'd hear Mass. Dalawa na sinisimbahan namin Santuario de San Jose, dito sa North Green Hills. O kaya sa Mary the Queen Parish, dito naman sa may West Green Hills. Diba? So, yun lang yung mga pinupuntahan namin. And after that, we'd drive down to Project 6 and eat at Bonanza, among others. Diba? Or Binondo sometimes. But the memory that I have, the strong memory, is just really going down to Bonanza and listening to Lindsay Buckingham. And again, as an impressionable young, it really ingrained myself. It's ingrained into my brain. Uh, Hearing Fleetwood Mac, seeing Stevie Nicks, and like, oh my God, she's my first rock and roll crush. And hearing your song Dreams, what a fantastic song. It's something that I love to this day. It goes one hand in hand. Don't stop in dreams. But this is a fantastic record. So we had this record at home. My dad would play it. We played. Yeah, he liked Fleetwood Mac, so he would play it. And kami noon, nung nasa Cubao, yung layout kasi ng bahay, pagpasok mo sa may pintuan, it's sala. Pagpasok mo ng sala, ang una mo makikita yung stereo system na napakaganda. There was this whole Kenwood uh, sound system, right down to speakers, the amp, the radio, the turntable, the preamp, puro Kenwood yan. And it was in this nice shelf that was specifically made for that particular sound system. And then on the right side, you had the Sansui system. You know, so, and then later on, we acquired some Bose speakers. And, that was, so busog kami sa tunog. Tapos nagkaroon kami ng mga Technics turntables. Sa totoo lang, yung mga Technics turntables, may kwento yan. Yung iba doon, nakuha sa mga raid, nakuha sa mga raid sa mga record pirates. No? Don't ask me how, but we kept, for some reason, we kept some of them, not all of it. We did not, I don't think all of it was turned over to the cops. So we had a few of them. And my first turntable was one of these portable ones in a red case. It sounded like shit, you know. And then playing the single of Staying Alive in Bee Gees, and then problema, may pop siya, so nagre-repeat siya. And then my neighbors, the Dulay family, the Dulay brothers and sisters were all from Ateneo Island also. And the father, si Captain Dulay, was a pilot with Philippine Airlines, and they are our direct neighbors. And I remember playing Staying Alive really loud, and then the repeat siya, and I could hear sila Boo Boy, sila Eric laughing. Nakakahiya, di ba? Nagsiskip yung plaka. But, so from the small portable turntable like that, my father gave me Techniques. And my my amp, I think I inherited one of the Sansui amps. And my speakers were, I think I got one of the Bose speakers. Kasi ang dami, alam mo, pag nakita ko ang ganda ng setup namin ng sasama, such a beautiful, beautiful setup. It was great to just sit down in the salon and just listen to music. And on Sundays, if we weren't out, my daddy just plays records while cleaning around the house, or even when we'd get home from wherever, he'd play his records. I just loved it. So adjacent to the sala is the dining room, and then from the dining room is my room that I shared with my brother and my sister. Then we had the maid's room, then there's a bathroom, and then the kitchen. No? So even from my room, minsan bubuksan ko lang yung pinto. Nakikinig na ako sa music na pinapatugtog ng father. Because this was like discovering a lot of stuff. And remember, I was a young boy. And everything that he played, I was just listening to it, soaking it in. Parang feeling ko rin baduy kasi papatugtog siya ng mga sinabi. Pero, I think hearing it all the time, so it made it easier for me to get into the kind of music. And Rumours is one of them. And then another record that we could Machine Head ng Deep Purple. Grabe to. Alam mo, dahil nakatira kami sa Cubao, dun sa Pitwazon entrance ng Alimon, tapat na may karinderya. May karinderya. And it had a picket fence that was painted orange. I remember that so well. Tapos he had a jukebox on the side. And I was just fascinated by the jukebox. And you just put in 25 centavos and then you could play a song that you want. And would go there a lot before, because I didn't have a turntable yet. So I listened to all these songs and because I didn't have all the records. So I just listened to a lot of stuff there. And Alam mo sa jeep noon, uso nun yung mga 8-track tapes. Grabe, kung patugtugin nila, yun, natuto ako mag-commute. Kasi may football practice kami nun. Iniwan ako ng mga kapatid ko kasi they didn't want to wait. So, you ride a jeep and then you have this 8-track tape blaring, Highway Star. And then years later, it was Guns N' Roses, diba? But Highway Star, grabe yun. And I loved it. I loved it. The Jeep driving really fast, going really fast, and then Highway Star not even. Wow. You know, I told myself it must be fun to drive really fast. So Machine Head, diba? Tapos Smoke on the Water. Grabe. Alam mo yung mga Jeprox naman, yung mga babanda. Ito staple yung Deep Purple. So kakain kami sa Shakey's, dito sa may New Frontier, or even sa Alimol. Sa Alimol, nung una, walang banda yun. Pero later on, nagkaroon. New Frontier, may banda talaga. They would play a lot of Deep Purple. You ride a jeepney, there's a lot of Deep Purple. Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. Di ba? Mga ganun. Grabe. So, I couldn't wait to get my own copy of Machine. Grabe the memories that are attached to this. And I love this record. I still do to this day. And once in a while, I play those songs. Diba? And I'm a fan of the old Deep Purple, not their new version, but their old stuff. Child in Time, grabe. Parang sarap magmaneho sa ganun. Diba? Lalo na yung after watching it on Twister, film Twister, it came out, what, 1988, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Pero alam ko kasi, yun na yung si Sammy Hagar na yung vocalist ng Van Halen. So, grabe. This is massive, such a huge seller. And once I could afford to get this record, I did. But I would play it on that jukebox dun sa Carinderia. And, mga kumakain ng mga jeepney driver, yung mga night girls, di ba? And wala, it seems so grimy, it seems so dark. Mga alas 6 ng gabi, dapat nasa bahay ka na, hanapin ako ng mami ko. Pero pupunta lang ako doon para makapagpatugtog. Kasi ayoko makita ako na nandun ako ba kasi yung nagsumbong sa nanay ko na, uy, si Ricky nandun sa may karinderya nagpapatugtog sa jukebox. But man, I love it. Just playing Deep Purple there till I got the record. That's where I could only play Deep Purple. Now, in the 1970s, I started writing, but although I would draw a lot, I started to learn how to write. But I did never thought of myself as a writer. But my mom would would introduce books to me, magical books. And one of the writers that I really got into, well, there was Robert Frost, Tolkien, and all that. But the writer that I really got into was Jack Kerouac. And to this day, I I I try to emulate, but I found my own style. But if you really look at my style, it's Jack Kerouac, diba? Where I ramble on, just talk about things that are personal. That's very Jack. So, and that book On the Road Again, like just being on the road, that sounded like there was a sense of freedom. Freedom to go anywhere if you wanted and to experience all these things. And this that this record was that for me. And it's a Jingle magazine. They were such Jackson Browne fans. They had praised him to the high heavens. So I remember this one. All the critics from Jingle magazine swear by this album. And then you'd hear the Jackson DZRG play running in. It's just like, you know, um, when I think about it, but I go, um, when you listen to the lyrics of the song, it's just being out there on the road and trying to find yourself, even if you're running on empty. And couple that with Jack Kerouac, it's a powerful potion, and I love it. Lalo na seeing Jackson Browne was a film and no nukes at me and my classmates. And I was in grade seven at the time. I remember who we were: Juneri, Ben Reyes, Tek Gardner, Bam Kim Son, and one more. We went to watch the No Nukes concert at the old Quad Theater in Makati. And we were just there. It's like a 2 3 hour concert film. And when we got out of it, we were just buzzing about it, and we were standing in front of what was now the the entrance of Glorieta dun sa ano, ano, sa Glorieta 4, or the Rizal Theater, which is now naging, I don't know what it is now, but I think it's part of Glorieta. Dati yung Rustansang bandang Rustansang exit point. Um, then naghihintay kami ng love bus pabalik ng Cubao because I not most of us lived in Quezon City with Heck. I think Heck at the time was living in Project 6, so siya pinakamalayo. And I remember we were all talking about the film outside the theater. And it just blew our minds. And then watching Jackson Browne, them performing Running on Empty, it's just like, wow. Um, so I got this record. And whenever I play this record or hear the songs from this album, I think back to the time me and my grade 7 classmates watching the No Nukes film. I think about reading the articles in Jingle magazine. I think about Jack Kerouac. I think about hitting the road, and to this day, such a powerful album for me. Um, it brings this rush of memories flooding back into my brain. And it's a wonderful, and look at that graphic. Ito man naman, all this drum set in the middle of the road, in the middle of this empty highway. You know? And if you look at the back cover, it's just Jackson Browne. The magic of records is that you read all this stuff, all the info over here, and then you look at the guys who perform in the album: David Lindley, Russ Kunkel, Leland Sklar, Craig Durge, Danny Korchmar, Rosemary Butler. They performed with practically everyone: Michael McDonald, Nicolette Larson, uh, everybody back then. So, and I learned all of that by reading the liner notes. I just love reading it. Jackson Browne is one of those that really got me into writing songs because I could relate to it at the time. I mean, Kiss was writing songs that I couldn't write. I tried, but I wrote really stupid lyrics, ugly lyrics. I couldn't. But writing about being on the road and experiences, and that was something I could relate to. In fact, that's going to relate to these next couple of records. Wave from Patti. I already knew of Easter, the album Easter. I was just like transfixed and bewitched by Patti. I was so, even with the cover of Easter, and with Patti showing off her armpit hair, I was like, wow. And I thought that she somewhat in some ways supplanted Stevie Nicks as my rock and roll coach. And she wrote poetry. I was writing poetry at the time. I had a whole notebook of poetry that I still have it to this day. And I'm not going to show it because it's so cheesy. But this is my first Patti Smith record. I got this before Easter. And I love Easter, but this one means so much because it was my first. And I can tell you where I bought this. I bought it at Odyssey in Shopsville in Greece. There were only 2 outlets here in Manila that sold imported records: Odyssey. I was the only branch at the time. And then eventually when Odyssey closed down, it became book sale. Wala na yung book sale ngayon doon. I don't know what it is now. So, and then there were Sam's along Pasay Road. Doon ko nabili to sa Odyssey. Wait. And this is that particular record. This one. And I bought it for 120 pesos, which was a lot of money back then. Kasi ang plaka lang noon, 24 pesos. Ang important, 120. Imagine that. So, katakot-takot na save ng allowance, gawa ng homework ng classmates ko, makolekta ng mga bote sa Ateneo to get the deposit, di ba? Eh, magkano deposit? 10 centavos or something like that, di ba? So, alam mo, pero sa isang araw, nakakalimang piso ako. Kasi ganun ako kasi pag mangolekta ng bote, umiikot sa buong Ateneo grade school, paikot-ikot until sunduin kami. Di ba? Kasi nagka-carpool kami ng me and my cousins. It wasn't all the time that we took a school bus. So, while waiting for my other cousins who would be coming out of Merinol or the Ateneo College, di ba? Umiikot ako sa buong grade school na kolekta ng bote tapos deposit. And it felt so rich with $5. It's a lot of money back in the day. You know? So this one, grabe ito. Um, at this time also, I think I discovered Kate Bush. Right? And Kate Bush was something else. Uh, there's a sense of something classical about her, something about literary about her. But putting together rock and roll poetry. Of course, there's the Doors, no? But this before I got into the Doors, I got into Smith Road. And this album starts off with the song Frederick, and it's so there's a she's if you read her lyrics, it's very Catholic, but Patti Smith is not Catholic. But she had a lot of friends who were Catholic, and she was so intrigued by the religion that she imbued a lot of her songs with Catholicism. Um, and I remember, listening to this, hi, hello, wake from thy sleep. God is giving thy soul to keep. Parang wow, who writes that stuff? Led Zepp, immigrant song, parang I thought of Tolkien, and a Battle of the Evermore, very Tolkien. Tolkien inspired that. Led Zeppelin was the first band that, to my knowledge, was so Tolkien. I had gotten into Tolkien by grade seven, in between grade seven and first year of high school. But Patti Smith put a lot of religious stuff into her songs. And just really, really intrigued me. And look at this. Um, yeah, when I talk about the religious imagery, with that. So this is a fascinating album. There's only one bit of lyric in this. It was Frederick. Hi, hello, awake from thy sleep. God has granted thy soul to keep in all the power and all of the flame. Burns there in a single Frederick being here, fast asleep in a room somewhere, guardian angels up above. Shed your light to the one and love. Grabe. Wow. Yeah. Powerful, powerful stuff. And then dancing barefoot was on this album. And then so you want to be a rock and roll star. Those first three songs on this album really shook me to my core. You know, all the more I began to write poetry. Yeah, so you want to be a rock and roll star. Grabe technical. And Wade and Patti Smith. And then eventually nakakuha ko ng Easter. My father got it for me Easter. And he knew my mom would question it. But hindi niya yata pinakita sa mom ko. My mom would just be surprised one day while I wasn't home. She was checking out my collection. She was so unhappy about it. And then there's this record, Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. So this goes hand in hand, as I said, with Running on Empty. You know, at the time, I started to buy Rolling Stone magazine, and they were just really into Bruce Springsteen, as was Jingle magazine. And this album, wow, you know, especially the song Jungle Land. Grabe. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. Like the Who's Baba O'Reilly gets a rise out of me every time. You know? And what a powerful cover. Parang bakit ganon? It seems so odd. Hateful, bro. Hateful. Ganda. Pero alam mo, yung unang labas, yung Philippine release nito, hindi siya hateful. Just a single, wala, just one single pocket. So if you wanted to see Clarence levels, you had to flip it, inside with the lyrics. And walang lyric. Wala naman lyric sheet na linalabas locally yan, unless it was on the jacket itself. So, but this one, because of Springsteen, I got into Bob Dylan. Diba? So, kasi ito, siya yung na-discover. And if you listen to his first in Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, diba? He was like a young uh, Bob Dylan. Diba? Even Steve Forbert, who came up a few years after this, was so into Dylan. And so that the connection there is like, wow. So even there was a different way of writing songs, a different way of writing. Diba? And when I'd listen to this one, I'd think of West Side Story. Yeah, I'd think of the West Side Story. I love West Side Story. I My folks and I would watch it on television, and that was the only thing that we had back then in terms of entertainment. If it wasn't going to the movies, we'd go to Binondo. Wala pa yung Cubao noon. I mean, not even some entertainment capital. If you wanted to watch movies, you went to Binondo, and where we'd watch even Bruce Lee double features, and when you get out, your brain would be mush. But so but wow, such a powerful album for me. Springsteen. This is my intro to Bruce Springsteen, uh, along with the Dave Marsh book. That is also titled Born to Run. I wanted to get it, and then there was this curio shop in Shopsville also. That for me was the best place on the planet. Uh, they sold Cream magazine. They sold a lot of books that you could not find in National, Alimars, or Rex bookstore. Diba? That was the alternative bookstore. Although many of them were secondhand, they were getting it from Clark. Diba? Pero, talagang treasure trove. Diba? Then I'd see that book about by Danny Sugarman about Jim Morrison of the Doors. So when Reddy died, you'd see Dave Marsh's Born to Run. And that all, that because I couldn't easily get it, I was just fascinated by it. Every Friday I'd go to Green Hills, or Saturday I'd walk from a house in Cubao back and forth, maglalakad na ako just to save on jeepney fare, diba? So I could have more stuff to buy. And you know, getting this record, back then was like all the others that we've seen, it's just something important for me, something life changing. Diba? And to listen to Springsteen, and I'm still a fan of Springsteen to this day. Parang that earnestness and honesty and him telling stories, very Kerouac din. Uh, so there, yun yung connections. And then there's this Santana. So at the time that even my record collection was very, very small. It's limited to Kiss, then Led Zeppelin III. And I remember one of my father and mother's close friends was Mr. Tito Tony Cruz, and he lived in Parañaque. And it was a quaint house uh, with a picket fence also. And we'd go there even to Tito Sonny Gonzalez's place that was very using hippie. And I remember even in Tito Sonny's house, he had records of Santana and Led Zeppelin 4. So, diba? Hinayaan niya akong mga likoton. Since wala naman akong kalaro, I would just play stuff on the turntable. And I remember my mom sinusuway kami, but Tito Son would say, no, let them. They're discovering music. You know. Playing Led Zeppelin 3 there, 4 there was, I had to play it down low because my parents would hear staring to him. You know, but Santana, they didn't mind Santana. And playing this record in Abacus, diba, just totally blew my mind away. It's like, what's this? Diba? Psychedelic Latin music, diba? It was just incredible. To this day, this is one of my favorite records. I'm eating, waiting, evil ways, diba? Jingo, Soul Sacrifice. Grabe. What an album. What an album. It's one of my, and look at the artwork. Look at the, just incredible. So, um, so a lot of the stuff that I was listening to, one, it was a literary bent to some of them. Number two, there were this superhero stuff or artwork stuff that sounds into art and comic books. Diba? And even the songwriting, because I was in Tolkien, I was into Kerouac, I was into Nick Joaquin, everything. Yeah. So it further, it kaya yung music kasi malakas ang kapit sa akin because of all of this. This is an impressionistic time where I was soaking in a lot of things. And these are the records that help uh, define who I am as a person and what I believe in and what I listen to and what I care about. And these are those uh, records that shape me. Now, and we're gonna dive now. My father, as president of Patti, would bring home Billboard magazine every week, and I would just read it from cover to cover again and again. And try to memorize a lot of the stuff, and there were all these new music things that I would learn about. And I remember one time he brought on this issue of Billboard, and when you flip open to the frontispiece, that's the second page, there was this ad. The whole ad was in yellow, and then there was this like stop sign in the middle that said the B-52s are coming. And I remember asking Dad, can I get this? And he said, not right now. You have to wait for about a month because other people in Pari might want to read it. So I had to wait, and eventually I asked my dad's secretary, si Sally, to save that copy for me. Then I tore out the frontispiece, it posted the B-52s are coming, and I knew nothing about it. And the summer of our moving from grade 6 to 7, one of my best friends at the time, Hector, came back from a vacation in the United States, and he bought the B-52s because I told him about it, and he bought the B-52s. And we would play this record together, play to them. And then about a few months later, I got, yes, this is that copy. This is it. This is it. Diba? And wow, we just love these songs. And we would wonder, like, 52 girls, how come there are like only what, 27 names of girls in the song? But this is such a fun album, even 606084. We memorize that and we give it as a fictitious number. Yeah, grabe to. Man, just love this record to pieces. And to this day, the B-52s are remain one of my favorite bands ever. Diba? I'm glad they kept the party spirit all the way to yung Fun Flex na album. And just look at that cover. Incredible. Diba? Napakaganda na cover. I since I acquired this record, yes, this is that record, that same record that I got uh, in 1980. 79 to lumabas. Nakuha ko ng 19 or Pasko ng 1917. Basta 1980 ko nakuha. Lumabas na to. Um, Grabe. But I just played it to death. And I thought that I would not like the B-52s, but then they come out with Wild Planet, Strobe Light, Private Idaho. Wala, B52 is fine. But I do have a lot of variants in this one. Japanese pressings, UK pressings, all these different covers. Yeah, what a record. I love it to this day. And then there's this, Ramones. Ah, ito yung original pressing. Well kept talaga. Diba? So, I mean, Cream magazine, mas nag-resonate yung Cream sa akin kesa sa Rolling Stone. Kasi Cream was very irreverent, um, with Lester Bangs and all these other uh, writers that they had. And they were raving about the Ramones and the Clash. But I remember hearing Blitzkrieg Bop for the first time. I was just, what the hell is this? It is nothing that it's nothing like Led Zeppelin is. It's nothing like Fleetwood Mac, Jackson Brown. Nothing like that. Nothing like Deep Purple. Nothing like Angel. Diba? So just, siguro by today's standards, it's what? Bubblegum punk. Pop punk pa nga. Pwede mo sabihin ng iba. Sinasabi ng iba, pop punk. Eh. Pero hindi. Yeah. Back then, this is, wow. It was like a rock through a window. It's just so different. And look at that, with the torn jeans, and everyone wanted torn jeans after. Everyone wanted to look tough, wanted to wear glasses like that, wear those Beatle mop tops. But what an album! What that was my they were my introduction to punk rock, and I had parang because of that I started to abandon the 70s rock that I loved and grew and was being on. Pero kasi it's easy to do that because at the time I was growing up. I became a teenager and then new wave picked up. So I was soaking up all this new stuff that was coming up. And the Ramones opened they it's like a rock through window. Then the hole got bigger and bigger until the whole window was gone. And then that led me to this. My one of my best friends too was Nicky Ramos. Nick had this incredible record collection because they frequently traveled. He could ask, I think his dad to get records. Uh, I remember one time because the Clash was on Billboard, so I was interested in the Clash. Then Nicky, like heck, getting the B-52s. Nick Nicky was able to get this record, and he said, "Rick, it's a really good album." Ricky or Patrick, because Patrick Raymond and full name. And my nickname is Ricky. I dropped the Y only later on when I moved abroad. So I felt it was a young boy's name. So getting the Clash was like, wow, look at that poem. It's not the Ramon. It's very pop. It's something else. And then I mean, who does this artwork? Such a powerful image. Yeah. And then Flash City Rockers. I remember playing this for the first time. It's like, wow, what the hell? Yeah, man, they make no apologies for their being British and anti-establishment. And then, Police and Thieves, the Junior Murder, uh, remake, uh, uh, you know, may reggae. So na-intriga ako sa reggae. Intriga, what's this? Why did the Clash's cover of Police and Thieves appeal so much to me? So it is because of that particular song that I dug into reggae, and I discovered. Obviously, you have to start with Bob Marley and the Wailers, but agad-agad, di ba? Punta na sa mga Burning Spear. So at a very young age, I had fabulous reggae collection. And for some reason, people knew that I had an awesome record collection. Um, so people go to the house. I don't know why. I don't know how they learned about it. People who were not my classmates or my cousins would go to the house and inquire about my records. But when you're a young punk, it's hard to say no to people. I had to, you know, na nabubuyo ako, pahiramin ko ng plaka. Hindi ibabalik sa'yo. O kaya kung ibabalik, wasak na. Diba? So doon ako natuto na hindi magpahiram. Diba? So if I don't lend your record, please do not be offended. Because there's a history to it. And I remember when I got Roger Taylor's first solo album, Roger Taylor of Queen, he put out More Fun in Space. And it had that character from Warren comics on the cover. They got creepy and all that. And this guy was from UP. He was much, much older than I was. And for some reason, again, I don't know how people knew about my record collection. I guess word of mouth from friends and it goes around. So he showed up one day at my house, and I think I met him in Jingle magazine. Then badgered me no end to borrow my copy of More Fun in Space. And for some reason, pinakawalan ko. Sabi niya, he'll return it after a week, but it lasted for months and months. I kept calling him. He'll return it. But like 6 months after he returns it, it's in shit shape. I felt so crushed and I said, I'm not never gonna learn the record. So in this record, we tried to get this also. I steadfast said, no, I'm not gonna learn this. And the Clash, it's in punk rock that I learned more about the politics of the world, about, about the ills of the world, of society through punk rock. While, you know, uh, if if the Ramones were like 60s pop, naging punk. Ito galit. Galit to. Diba? So, medyo political to. So you learn a lot of stuff. I learned a lot about the world through punk rock. Then the newspapers, diba? Kasi the newspapers will not tell you everything. So this is my gateway to uh, what? Anarchy, to society skills, etc., etc. Grabe. Uh, there was even an ad in Billboard about because they were featured on the cover of Rolling Stone. And they used the cover as an ad in Billboard. I remember tearing it out and posting it on my wall. And yes, I remember what it looks like. I do. I wish I kept it, but kasi gamit lang naman namin nun scotch tape pag tapal sa wall. Eventually, for some reason, I don't know why, nasisira siya. So, ayun, I lost that poster. Now, all these records were opening me up to so many other things. I remember um, Hector telling, Rick, you have to get into Dire Straits. And this is the last record I mentioned for this particular video. We're talking. And wow, what a discerning cover in watercolor. Di ba? Ganyan ang pagka-watercolor. And it's mysterious. And there's a back cover. I first got the Philippine press of this one. And I remember hearing it on the radio. And it's a 99.5 RP. It's like, wow, what is this? What is this song? And that was Sultans of Swing. And this is the half speed master pressed in 1980. This is a British copy. Half speed master. Who would have thought that there were half speed masters back then? So I got the Philippine pressing of Dire Straits. I loved it to pieces. There's a story, and I think it's true, about how this DJ in London played the entire album over and over on a show. And because of that, gained a lot of traction, and people, got into Dire Straits. And they were my fandom for Dire Straits lasted all the way up to making movies. Not Brothers Anonymous. That was the MTV. I liked them all the way up to making movies, especially songs like Romeo and Skate Away. Skate Away, when I think of Skate Away, I think of Dire Straits performing in Solid Gold. It was hosted by Dionne Warwick. And they were lip syncing to that song. But nevertheless, diba? That was the first time me seeing Dire Straits. So from this particular album, all the way to making movies, that was the time I just absolutely loved Dire Straits. They were so European, but they made no bones about them being European, British and European. The second album was Style Communicate. Diba? Uh, akala ko dati community. Talagang nagbubukas yung horizons ko to so many things. Like this album, you know, Down the Water of Love, setting the guitar work here is just exquisite. You know, um, he was the first guitar hero outside the metal guys that I had heard. And well, when you talk about guitar heroes, how come I'm not showing the band to them? Well, I'm not including them in this video. I'll include them in another video. Why? I'll explain why I did not include that here. Uh, yung Van Halen kasi, basta explain ko lang next time. But, Mark Knopfler was like a guitar hero who wasn't a metal or hard rock. And, because of that, I was like, starts looking for those kinds of sounds. And I found that in U2's The Edge, later on. Like, wow, look at all this guitar work. It's just not metal. Hard rock with all these guitar solos. You could have guitar solo with some just wow. It's like they're driving across, going to Positano, Italy. And that's still what I think whenever I hear songs. It's like I'm driving on this highway going to Positano. And just seeing the seaside. There's something watery about Dire Straits. This is a record I play only at don't play it during the day. It really resonates well at night. So yeah, ito yung mga records na, just to recap everything. These are the records from the 70s that just really, really had an effect on me. They might not be the best. Some of them are the best, all-time best. But, Led Zeppelin III. Nakakatawa pati mga kwento about it. Kiss Destroyer. Diba? Wings Greatest. There's 3 versions of this. Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. 3 copies also of Rumours. Different pressing. Machine Head from Deep Purple. Running an Empty from Jackson Browne. Wave from the Patti Smith Group. Still a fan to this day of Patti Smith. Still a major fan. Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, the great Born to Run album. Santana. I love this one. Absolutely love it. It's so timeless. It sounds so 60s and 70s, but I love it. The B-52s. Ramones. Alagang-alaga. The Clash. Maalaga kasi ako sa alaga. Sobrang maaga. Straits. As you can see, they're all in plastic. Diba? Even their shelves have plastic covers and all that. Tapos, nasa air conditioning room pa dati yan. Dati may air conditioning kasi kami dito, but it's busted. So, naka-electric fan mo lang siya. So these are the records that I wanted to talk about from the 1970s. Diba? By no means are they the best, but my favorite. By no means are they ranked from 1 to 12. No, they're just 12 records that I wanted to do. The next time you see me, we'll talk about the 80s. Yan, mga new wave yan. Pero you'd be surprised at the records. Again, they're not the best. But every one of them have stories. Stories that I'd love to share. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast where I talk about my records once more. My name is Rico Olivares, and do check out Icon Records Philippines, and you can find that on Facebook as well as my releases. And maraming salamat for listening. So I hope you enjoyed this show. Bye.